For the first time in Statesboro, Clay Helton has a quarterback battle. Who's going to start for the Georgia Southern Eagles? Coach Helton joins us next on Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Thanks very much for hopping on. We had a chance to have Coach Clay Helton on, and, the two first seasons, he had a couple of quarterback transfers. Now he's got a quarterback battle that will not be settled until fall camp. He talks about the Cole Swindell concert that capped off spring football. We talk NIL portal, and he is one of the few guys that has that experience leading a Power 5 school and a Group of 5 school. Coach Helton talks about should the Group of 5 be included in the playoff. Let's get to it. He is the coach of the Georgia Southern Eagles. He is Clay Helton on Locked On Sunbelt. Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Our spring tour around the Sunbelt continues. We bring in the head coach of the Georgia Southern Eagles. He is Clay Helton. Coach, how do you go about getting a concert for the spring game? Cole Swindell coming up there. Tell us that story, because that's an amazing story, and you may be a trendsetter now in college football.
Well, I tell you what, we're so thankful to Cole and all his friends that came. We called it Gata Jam. It was an unbelievable weekend, that whole weekend, not only having the spring game, but to be able to, have Gata Jam with Cole, who's an amazing alumni for us, and to bring some of his country music friends during that segment. Man, it was absolutely awesome. 11,000 fans on the banks of beautiful Eagle Creek, our practice fields, and it was something to see. I thought it was a tremendous weekend. It not only helped our community, it helped our university, and we can't thank Cole enough. He's just been terrific to our football family.
So did that cap off the weekend? Was that after the game? So how did you get the kids and the coaches to concentrate on the game before the concert?
It was really hard. We had
I bet.
we had our alumni golf tournament on Friday morning, our football alumni dinner that night, Friday night. You go have spring game Saturday afternoon, and then you got Cole Swindell on Saturday night. I was worried about our focus.
All right. When did you even get to the tape of the spring game? That had to wait until Monday.
Oh, it definitely did. Definitely did. We celebrated 5 weeks of great spring football, and to have it was a great way to take all our wives out on dates. They hadn't seen us very much over that last 5 weeks, so it was kind of celebration of having spring ball come to an end.
That's outstanding. And why didn't you get up and do a duet? Why aren't we doing background? You couldn't do a little background, oohs and ahs?
I don't think my coaching voice is quite made for country music, but I did get to introduce Cole, which was neat to be able to do, and be able to present some of our NFL players. Younghoe Koo was there, Tyler Bass was there, Najee Thompson was there. So to be able to introduce those guys also was really neat. So when you stand on stage, and usually you're in front of tens of thousands of people in the football stadium, to be on that stage and look out and see what Cole sees, that was a pretty cool time.
Yeah, but the benefit of singing background, coach, is that you sing in harmony with the guy next to you. No one can hear you. That's the benefit.
I don't think they want my voice.
Talking to Coach Clay Helton for Georgia Southern. All right, for the first time since you've been there, we have a quarterback battle. It was quarterback by transfer the first couple of seasons. Give us an idea of how the spring practice went. And from what I read, it's still very much up in the air.
Yeah, definitely. We had to build some belief within the system in our first 2 years, because, there was a dramatic change in year 1 and 2 from what Georgia Southern had been in the past to where we are now. And so to be able to be a more balanced offense that can throw and run is something that we had to build belief in. And thank God for Kyle Van Treese and Davis Bren, who believed in that, came in and led us to 2 straight bowl games. And now it's about, we've got our best football team by far going into the 24 seeds, and our deepest football team. And now it's about some guys that we have signed in years past, as well as bringing in one transfer in Dexter Williams, putting them in that room and allowing them to compete. And what we saw in spring was the level of all of them raised up. And that's what competition does. And thank God for college football to have 15 practices in spring to be able to have 25 in summer. You get 40 practices to be able to evaluate guys and see who's the best guy in the moment. And the best guy in the moment walk out there first in Boise State. So, yes, it's our first time. It's great to have that feeling, to have multiple guys that can do the job in the room and allow them to compete and grow.
All right, so I'm not going to be the only one, and others will remind you. The issue so far for the quarterbacks for the last couple of years, putting up great numbers, but maybe giving it to the other team once too often. I'm still not happy about the Wisconsin game, but I got a feeling you feel worse. So how do you get these guys, as I've talked to Sean Clark with Joey Aguilar, like he wants to make that throw into the tiny window, and he progressed to where he is dumping it off and taking the easy and safe throw. How do you get these guys to do that? Because everybody wants to, make that big throw, be the hero instead of, just getting 4 yards on 3rd and 3.
Yeah, and Dave, you bring up a great point. I mean, that's the difference in winning conference championships or not. We put ourselves in a position. You look at us going into November, we're in first place, and we're controlling our own destiny. And then we don't play good football in November, and we have turnovers, and that cost us. It cost us the opportunity to go win a championship. And our guys feel that. They got a chip on their shoulder, especially at the quarterback position. And it's easy to be able to show guys that when we do protect the football with the skill players that we have around us, you can go to Lincoln, Nebraska and get a huge victory. You can go get a top 25 win, versus James Madison. You can go beat your arch rival in App State and Georgia State over the last 2 years. And you can have huge victories for our program as well as put ourselves in the conference title hunt. When we do turn it over, that's the number one way you lose football games. So that's our biggest area of growth, to be honest with you.
Sure.
And it comes from that quarterback position. I think our runners have done an amazing job of protecting the football. It's really going to be the decision-making of the quarterback, and that's primarily what's going to win the job, the guy that can move the ball down the field, produce points while protecting the football.
Is that the easiest place to have growth, just the decision-making? Because on the other side of things, sometimes, all these teams have great turnover margins. A lot of times, defensively, that's the luck of the bounce, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it always bounces in your hands and sometimes it doesn't, right? You can't really do that on a regular basis for the most part. But offensively, you can change that with a mindset. At least that's what I hear from you guys.
Yeah, at the quarterback position, it's about three things: decision-making, timing, and accuracy. The decision-making to find the one-on-one opportunity and attack the one-on-one opportunity, not in multiple coverage, but the one-on-one opportunity. The ability to get the ball out on time. With today's pass rushers in college football, they just keep on getting bigger and faster and even getting to the quarterback even faster, is making timely decisions and getting the ball out and then throwing it accurately. And being able to do that, you look at the teams that have been ultra successful each and every year, the guys that are winning championships or having, making national stories are the guys that are protecting the football. You think of Jaden Daniels last year. You think of Oregon last year. These were two of the top teams in protecting the football. And lo and behold, you look up and you got two of the better quarterbacks in the country, and Bo Nix and Jaden, that are leading that way. So you can show quarterbacks examples, but those are the three things in my mind that protect the football: is the decision-making by the quarterback, getting it out on time, and then his ultimate accuracy is what we grade on.
All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Coach Clay Helton. He talks about what other holes the team has to fill in addition to quarterback. He likes his team up the middle defensively, and of course, we suggest to throw to the tight end. We'll do that when we come back after I tell you about LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's continue our conversation with Georgia Southern's head coach, Clay Helton, talking about the holes that needed to be filled. He likes his team up the middle defensively as well. He is the coach of the Georgia Southern Eagles. He is Clay Helton on Lockdown Sunbelt. That you put decision-making one tells me all I need to know. He's Coach Clay Helton of the Georgia Southern Eagles, Lockdown Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, so the other thing you said is this is the most talented team we've had. We'll take the quarterbacks out of it because we're still trying to figure out what they're going to be. But that tells me that you have built a program, and the guys that are recruited, and some were left over, I'm sure, since you've been there, they're ready to shine. Give us some guys who stood out in spring ball that maybe not have played over the last couple of years.
Yeah, Dave, I think the buildup of what we've done to be able to sign 61 high school players over the last, not being a transfer portal program, but a development program, has really helped. We brought transfers in at specific needs, but, we've developed from youth. And over those 3 years, we've grown kids within the program, primarily from Georgia and the attached states. Now we look out and they're older guys. You think of the running back position, I think two of the most dynamic running backs, in our conference, if not the country, this year will be Jalen White and be O.J. Arnold, who have been, multiple year starters. That I believe Jalen White has the capability of being a 1,300-yard rusher this year. So having the availability to bring a Derwin Burgess back, who's been one of the more dynamic players in our conference over the last 2 years, I think he takes the role of where Caleb Hood was at last year, of being a 100-plus catch guy. Dalen Cobb coming on board, that's been, contributed huge over the last 2 years. I think he has his best season. Defensively, I really look at the middle of the defense. Justin Rhodes, Latrell Bullard, who have done a fabulous job for us, last year. They come back. Marquez Watson-Trent, that, is one of the top linebackers in our conference from a production standpoint, over 100 tackles. He's right there in the middle. And then TJ Smith, who really, I thought, had an all-conference year last year, coming from us from Kansas State to here, I think is going to be one of the better safeties in the country. So that middle of that defense is really strong with those guys. So you have guys that have been in the program. We have not had a ton of attrition from the transfer portal. I think our staff and these guys have built a great trust and relationship together. And when you don't have attrition and you're able to build the talent base from the ground up, I think you produce your best football team. And I think that's where we stand right now.
All right, a couple of things there that perked my ears. First of all, just like baseball, it's all about the middle, the defense. All right, and so no matter what we're doing spread-wise or anything like that, but if you don't have a couple of guys in the middle that can crash the middle of the line and get that quarterback to move, it doesn't matter how good the pass rush is, it doesn't matter how good the coverage is outside, and it doesn't matter about those middle linebackers. You just need those two guys up front. I mean, you could go back and look at the Patriots winning their first Super Bowls. Yeah. They had some mountains of men, right? Mount Cody for Baltimore, right? The guys in the middle matter.
Yeah. Big men win championships, Dave. And the spine of that defense is what every defense is based on. Who are your two interior, especially in a 4-down defense that we are, who are your two interior guys? Who's your Mike linebacker? Who's your free safety? And to be able to have that spine as strong as it is right now helps me sleep at night.
Right, because then you have those stunts, and I don't really know what I'm talking about, but those two guys take the middle guys out, and all of a sudden you got the ends coming through the middle, and that quarterback doesn't know where it's going. The other thing that you mentioned were, these older guys. What's it like to have older players in the portal? Because that seems to be, well, I was going to say basketball, but that seems to be, we've seen that as well. What's it like having, for lack of a better term, men, right, and not kids in the program?
Well, I'll say this, Dave, not only having older guys, but guys that have been with you in your entire time here. To be able to not have the attrition that the transfer portal can create, but to have guys that have grown up within your culture, that understand the standard, that understand the expectations, and now walking into their third season with you, man, that's ultra important, because you can bring an old guy in, but he may not know your culture and he may not know the expectation. That takes time. But these guys have been with me now for 2 years, been with our coaching staff for 2 years. They're juniors and seniors now that we took over as either signing them as freshmen or adopting them as redshirt freshmen and sophomores. And now they've grown within our culture, within our systems, and our systems haven't changed. To have Brandon Balin back as our defensive coordinator, I think he's one of the more talented young coordinators in the country. Turner West, who's done a great job for us as our special teams coordinator. Ryan Appling gets his opportunity. He's been our pass game coordinator for the last 2 years. Brian Ellis moving over to Alabama. He gets his opportunity. The systems haven't changed. The men in the locker room hasn't changed. The culture hasn't changed. And then all of a sudden you make that 2-year investment. You're walking into year 3. You're saying, gosh almighty, the attitude is right, the expectation is right, the people in the building are right, and it makes you excited. For what's to come.
You know much more about this than I do, but I would tell Ryan, throw it to the tight end. That opens up everything else. Throw it to the tight end. Everything else plays off of that. Running game will open up. Deep game will open up. Tight ends are mismatches. Wherever you're doing it.
Definitely, Dave. You saw that last year to have J.J. McAfee and Keaton Upshaw, who were 2 seniors. That position created over 60 catches for us last year and was ultra important in again, creating a passing offense that was top 20 in the country. So it is ultra important to be able to attack the middle of that field. And when you have a Tyler Fromm that just came to us as a big 6'5" target, even my old arm can't miss them. They're easy people to hit.
All right, one more timeout with Coach 3, 2, 1. Okay, one more timeout before we continue our conversation with the head coach of Georgia Southern, Clay Helton. He talks NIL, he talks portal, and he talks that G5 playoff that people have been suggesting. He's been there, the Power 5 versus the G5. We'll hear what he has to say. But first, let me thank you for a minute. Locked On Sunbelt continues to grow, and it's because of you. Really appreciate it. We're over 1,200 subscribers. We're on our way to 13. The goal is 1,500 for the first weekend of college football, at least the first full weekend of college football. That's August 31st. I think we can get there. We'll continue with the coaches. We'll continue to see what's going on with the transfer portal. We'll continue to follow softball and baseball, which is coming to a climax. So really appreciate everybody that is subscribing. Please pass it along. We can do better. We've done very well so far, but we can do a little bit better. So I do appreciate it. It's a lot of fun hearing from Sunbelt fans from across the conference. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's wrap up our conversation with the head coach, Clay Helton from Georgia Southern. He talks NIL, he talks portal, and he talks that G5 playoff that people have been suggesting. He is the head coach of the Georgia Southern Eagles. He is Clay Helton on Locked On Sunbelt. Talking to Clay Helton of the Georgia Southern Eagles, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. A couple more minutes with Coach as we continue our spring tour. All right, so, a lot of times I have these ideas, and they're not always right, but it seems 1 + 1 did equal 2. The Cajuns didn't lose many in the portal, and they happen to have their spring game the last Saturday of April, and then the portal closes May 1st. That seemed to be intentional. And I wasn't sure that it was, and it ended up being that way. Did you schedule it late for that purposes as well, trying to do what's best for, Georgia Southern? I will say Sean Clark did say the opposite. He's like, if you want to go in the portal, you can go in the portal. You're going to get in. But in this case, it did seem to help the Cajuns limit that after spring.
Well, we didn't lose a ton of kids in the portal for whatever. I think it's more based on trust and relationships. Every time that we look at spring football, we try to do what's best for the kids as far as their learning and their development. For us, we wanted to get through spring break and have 5 straight weeks of spring football.
Okay.
Being able to practice Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday, give them Sunday off, be able to install, watch all the tape, have a day off their bodies, make it a true learning period. And so we did that over 5 weeks, and it took us to April 20th. And then it provided us enough time to have realistic conversations with everybody. We always sit down, have our exit meetings at the end to be able to say, okay, hey, here's your strengths, here's your areas of growth. If we were playing a game today, this is kind of where you stand. And so there's clarity, and people respect that. Right. If you're truthful with kids and you're brutally honest with kids, they respect that. They want to be coached hard. They want to know where they stand. They want to know how they can grow, how they develop, what's their specific plan. And then decisions are made. And so because of providing clarity and transparency and being real with them, providing care and concern, we haven't seen a ton of attrition. And so that's helped us.
So where do you think, let me see if I can word this right. Where do you think the biggest issue when it comes to guys that are not starters or too deep. You know, because, I mean, you already mentioned 2 running backs. You're probably going to play 3 or 4 this year because that's what it is, right? I know the Cajuns want to have 8 to 10 offensive linemen because that's what it's going to be. And you got to have a half a dozen wide receivers. It doesn't matter if you start, you may play the next play, right?
Yeah.
Defensive linemen seem to be going in and out. Corners don't go out, right? If you're a corner, you're basically on the field. So what is that the toughest position to keep? Because, I mean, you may get in as nickel, but you need the depth, but that would seem to be the toughest one to roll in on a regular basis.
Yeah, Dave, I think the biggest thing is, you know, in today's world, young men and women, they see the end goal, you know, but they also got to understand there's a mountain to climb to get there. You know, you don't get to the top of Mount Everest like that. You know, you got to know where your goal is, where the big picture is, and show them a natural progression of getting there. You know, and being able to show them some short-term, you know, success instead of, it may not be starting, but hey, here's where you were, you know, at the beginning when you first came to us. Now it's been a year. Look at the person, the player, the student you are now, and see how you're growing. And so you have those natural discussions that it may not be, you know, you may not be a starter yet, but here is where you're at. Here's where you can contribute. Here's your strengths. Here's your area of growth. And this is how you become a starter. And to have those individual conversations, I think, are really important. It takes a lot of time. You've got 120 men on your football team,
right.
But the greatest gift you can give somebody is your time and your care and concern. And when you do that, I think that it gives you the availability to hold on to men. We're naturally going to lose people. That's the nature of this game. But what you try to do as a coach is to limit that as much as possible.
And none of those 120 players, you know, lack confidence or were not superstars playing high school football. So they all think they should be the guy. All right, a couple more minutes here with Coach Clay Helton of the Georgia Southern Eagles. All right, so a big conversation that was last week is that we need to split between I guess it's Power 4 now, and the G5, because the G5 can't win a championship. I don't know if I've heard anybody claim that the G5 can win a championship, but you've been on this, and I'm not saying that they're wrong, right? You've been on the other side of this at USC. I'm not saying they're wrong that, you know, Georgia Southern and Georgia are playing 2 different things, okay? But I would also say, you know, USC and Washington State are 2 different things, or even Cal for that fact of the matter. It's a different level of athlete, but that doesn't mean that Georgia Southern can't go into Lincoln, Nebraska and have Kyle Van Treese do a QB draw and beat Nebraska, which everybody saw because the linebacker moved with the running back. But nonetheless, so I don't know if it's about winning a championship. It's just that opportunity to compete. Because, Coach, I know this, somewhere along the way, a G5 team will beat a Power 5 team in a playoff. I don't know if they're going to be able to get all the way to the championship or the end, but someone's going to get upset somewhere along the way.
Well, I'll tell you this. I have been at both sides. I've been at the Power 5 level. I've been at the Group of 5 level. And there is so much of great football players across the country.
Yeah.
And you can't tell me that a Tulane that has been ultra successful on a national level. Go see Cincinnati a couple of years ago, Central Florida, who came on the national stage at that, University of Memphis with Coach Norvell there and how they grew. There is going to be a national product and a national talk about by a Group of 5 school each and every year. It came from our conference last year with JMU. You know, to be able to have where your strength of conference, I think, is so important. And when you look at our conference in the Sun Belt, one of the things that truly intrigued me about this job, and I loved about this job, is give credit to Commissioner Gill and our presidents. You know, while everybody else was breaking up 2 years ago, they kept everybody together, plus brought in a product like James Madison, who was a national story last year, a conference champion at a Conference USA with Marshall, extremely strong program, historic program in Southern Miss, and a strong program with ODU. It made it stronger. So when you do go do your job, you know, as a Sun Belt entity, and you go run the table and you're a conference champion, you will be talked about. Now, on the national level, you will be in that playoff. And I can promise you right now, across the country, they don't want to play a Sun Belt team now because of the quality of talent that's across the board and the parity that we've made with the transfer portal. It's made better teams in the Group of 5. So, and I think it makes it a funner game when everybody is included. And so in that discussion.
He's Clay Helton, coach of the Georgia Southern Eagles, helping us out on our Locked On Sunbelt Spring Tour. Really appreciate it, Coach. Best of luck. Enjoy some off time. Get to know the wife again, and we will see you in New Orleans in July, Sunbelt Media Days. Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dave. Hail Southern.